was the addition of Olivia Christensen. Olivia Christensen here. This is the long lost sister of Katie. Olivia would have told Katie, no, abort the Bill Cosby reference. Don't do it. Don't do it. Leave. We welcome in Olivia Christian. I think it's because Kenny's habit of saying Christian, it's just stuck in my head. Plus, we were talking about Katie earlier, and now it's just out there. And
Kenny's like, why are you going to call me out like that? I only did it a couple times.
Always bringing up the past. I can never grow past my mistakes.
You gotta throw the heat elsewhere when you make a mistake. I saw it on Twitter once. Never mind. That's a long story. I'll tell you all about that one later. You're listening to KC on ESPN 1320 KIFM, West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, an Odyssey station, and driven by last year's Elk Grove Dodge. Olivia's already regretting this. Like, why am I here? Why did I sign up to do this?
Davion was like, I would never get Olivia's name. I remember back in the day when Kenny would get Olivia's name wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd be the one to say that's not okay.
Yep, that's it.
Honestly, that's the mistake that a lot of people make. So I'm not mad at you. It happens a lot. I don't know why people. I'm like the religion, It's
I also know your last name is something else. So like that always it's just not a natural flow of your name. That's what it is.
All right.
So
what are you drinking? What is that? Is there some?
It's green. It's green juice. Would you? No, there is no Bel Air here.
Okay.
Are poofy dresses your thing? If we were.
When I put this dress on, I was like, they are going to say something about my poofy sleeve. I knew it ahead of time, but I didn't.
That's her bag. That's her lane.
Yeah, like Casey's, wears hats.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a thing. If you look at
my hoods too when I have the hoodies on.
If you look at the book over, I show my ankles. That's my thing.
I was going to say you're an ankle shower.
I'm an ankle shower. If you look at Olivia's book over her shoulder, you see a big poofy dress. You posted something on an IG story. It was like, oh, I want this dress. It was a big poofy dress.
Yeah, but it didn't have poofy sleeves. I just like poof because you know what you can do? You can eat pizza and Doritos and no one has any idea how big your belly is under those poofy dresses. It's fantastic. That is what I do.
Poofy dresses.
Poofy dresses.
I'm with it. What did you did you happen to hear Buddy's remarks, by the way, after the game? That's what we were talking about. Like in this, it's a part of the conversation. Just bringing it in. Did you happen to catch Buddy's remarks last night following the game?
I did. Apparently, the Kings were constraining him, holding him back from doing what he could do. He was stuck in a corner. Never put baby in a corner.
Never. Or Buddy. No babies and no buddies in the corner.
But now he's free. And obviously that's not true. Let's go to the videotape.
Right. The endless hours of videotape.
Yeah, we determined that was a lie. Rest in peace to Maury Povich Show.
Not the father. But if that's what he wants to, the story he wants to tell himself and, sideline reporters or whomever, that's fine. I'm like, if that helps you get motivated for what you're trying to do, because we all want Buddy to be successful. Any athlete in the league, I want them to do well, to find their calling, to find their role, to find the team where they can best be themselves, play to their strengths. And if that's what you need to tell yourself, that's fine. Again, we know the truth, but if you need to tell yourself that, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. I agree with you. I mean, in the way I feel, I think Davion feels the same way. No ill will towards Buddy. Like, Buddy, go out and have a great career, play another 10 years and do whatever. And like you said, if that's the way he sees it in Sacramento and it's going to allow him to move on and continue his career and have a good outlook wherever he goes following Sacramento, so be it. It's no big deal, man. It really isn't. So.
No, I texted Davion last night. I was like, I forgot how much I didn't miss hearing the broadcaster say, oh, Buddy could get hot anytime. He could get up anytime. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that in so many weeks. I forgot how much I hated it. And what a relief it is to watch games and not hear that, especially when it very rarely comes true. He doesn't always, go in fuego, but they're always ready for it.
Always ready for it, just in case.
Now I will say this. I'll ask this question just in this one game because we haven't seen him to play all his games with the Pacers. But did he look like he was playing a different style of basketball to you last night? To talk about his point where he just felt like he was just a catch and shoot guy. Did it look like he was doing some things different? To me, there are moments when I did see him attack the basket more than I ever saw him attack in Sacramento. Do stuff off the dribble that allowed him to, get into the paint. I thought that was a little different. I feel like he probably could have done that in Sacramento and chose not to, but I don't know. Maybe he was told not to.
Yeah, well, there were flashes. Everybody was doing a little bit of something last night. It was a big game for both teams. Both, the guys who were traded for each other wanted to make a statement. So at times they did things that were out of character and they were successful at doing it. Sometimes they weren't. And sometimes you fall back into your old tendencies, like creating turnovers where turnover should not have existed. But yeah, generally, I think they were who they have always been on both sides of the floor.
It's funny that I don't know that we've mentioned Tyrese Halliburton's name once today. We're 3 hours into the show, and I don't know that Tyrese has been a focal point. And by the way, nor should he be. The only reason Buddy is a focal point of the conversation today is because of the post game remarks. He played fine. He shot well. He did a lot of things well for them. Tyrese Halliburton didn't shoot well, but he was dishing the ball all over the place. Mm-hmm. Our focus is on the Kings. The only reason Buddy became a topic of conversation is because he said something about his time in Sacramento that had every Kings fans extremely confused, thinking they had fallen into the sunken place during the Buddy Hield time and not quite understood what was going on. But the Kings won last night, and there are positives on the Kings end. Most of all, I think Davion Mitchell. We're going to get into give and go with Maybach O coming up here in just a couple of minutes or so. But as we, look ahead here to a stretch of what is almost certainly, Olivia, meaningless basketball, one of the things Kenny and I were really excited to see, with De'Aaron almost certainly out the remainder of the way, Domantas Sabonis almost certainly out the remainder of the way, is what can Davion Mitchell do with a clearly defined role and an opportunity to lead this version of the Sacramento Kings.
I think he's been amazing. And I think he needed that clear role and understanding when he was coming into the game for him to set himself up mentally, to prepare himself to do the things that he needed to do as a leader on the floor. He feels, when I look at him, he's always been energetic, right? Especially on defense. He's dug in on that, but he feels to me, or he looks to me, to be free. He's, playing into his strengths, and then he's also kind of pushing himself, I think, making fadeaway jumpers with the clock winding down and taking step back threes. He's building his confidence by playing more, and you can only build your confidence when you have more time on the floor. So it's really great for him right now to be getting these minutes, and the players around him to get minutes with him, establish some habits and some tendencies, and understand, without having to say anything, being able to communicate with each other on the court. It's so important. And I'm glad that he's getting this time, and I'm glad the players around him are also getting that time, and they're getting a little bit of a rotation of people to play with each other and to get that experience, to get that time in. It's great for him.
Do you feel like it's as simple with him as just not having a defined role, and something that he can rely on every night when you talk about minutes and where he's playing on the court, where the shots are coming? Is it as simple as that for him, where if he gets that on a consistent, regular basis, he can produce games as efficient as he has lately?
I think for him, yes. I think every player needs something different potentially. Some people thrive off of just get in the game, get out there, do what you got to do, create chaos, disrupt whatever's happening and get in and get out. And other players need to know what's happening. They need to have some structure around them. They plan ahead. Maybe who knows what they're doing the night before, visualizing their success or getting their body in a position to be able to go for 35 to 40 minutes as opposed to 5 minutes here or there. And it's important for coaches to be able to understand what will motivate players and how to put them in a position to be successful. It's clear to me. I mean, he had to go through this season. There are a lot of ups and downs. He had to figure out his role within the team, and that included how he would be used. And for him to be able to get to a point now where he's doing what he's doing.
One One thing I think I love about Davion that's just funny about him, and anyone who's ever heard him talk, even last night, I don't feel like Davion thinks about anything but basketball.
Yeah.
Like, Davion, you got a favorite song? Basketball by Curtis Blow. It's like everything he talks about centers on, even as he was answering questions last night, he was talking about Rico Hines and working out and extra training and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, this dude is literally, he is living the game.
Yeah, and when you're a young player like that, that's what you're like, right? You've been living and breathing this dream for so long. You're finally in the game. You have this time to make a mark, and to claim your spot in the roster and to show up in a certain way. Like you're eating and drinking this stuff and you're taking it all in. And I know when they were playing the Suns, he had some time to sit next to CP3 and they were talking, and he's open and available for these conversations. He wants to feed off of all of this information, and hopefully, he can sustain that hunger. I mean, but in time, all people, as you get older, you start having families and things like that. You get some distractions, you find other hobbies. But when you're young in the game, I would imagine, you want all that stuff. You'll talk to whoever, you'll train as hard as you can, and you'll put it all out there on the floor. So he's doing, I think, exactly what we as fans expect him to do, and then some, by how well he's playing.
Unrelated, Casey, I think Chris Paul is back tonight.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Yeah.
Yep. It's Denver. I think they play Denver tonight. They're getting ready. They could clinch the number 1 seed tonight.
Okay.
Phoenix can. So, Phoenix is gearing up. We've heard James Ham talk about, I would like to know what you think, where the Davion being so locked in to playing basketball and getting better and things of that nature, almost it gets to the point where it's like somebody's like, hey, you need a mental and physical break. Like, don't play basketball. We're going to lock the door. Like, you can't get in. Like, go do something else real quick. Do you believe in that? Like with some of these athletes where they can't, you can work out too much. You can engulf yourself in the sport and what's going on too much to the point where it becomes a hindrance to your ability to get better.
I think it can be dangerous for a player, especially physically, if they're pushing their body too hard and, working out, lifting weights and doing that kind of damage. Your body definitely needs time to heal and recover. But like I said, I think Davion is in a place right now where he's trying. I mean, we don't have that many weeks left. Like, he's going to go hard at it. He'll, get that time off in the spring and summer to rejuvenate, relax, play some video games, I imagine. Travel a little bit, but
probably just play basketball.
Probably play basketball. Probably. NBA 2K. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's super young, and I want him to continue to do what he's doing because I think it's helping him grow in confidence, but to be mindful of the impacts that it happens on your body, like your knees, your elbows, your back, all that stuff is important. But players these days, I mean, they have so many coaches around them. They have so many people who are helping them with their diet, their nutrition, recovery.
But those are things he probably hasn't learned yet. Like, I feel like older players get it. Like, we just referenced Chris Paul. You just referenced Chris Paul. I feel like those players get it. The LeBron James guys get it. As you get older, the Ray Allens, you figure that stuff out. I don't know that any kid, and I know what's Davion, 23, 22?
Yeah.
I think he's still, I know he's a little older than other rookies, but I think he's still probably 23. I got this. What you mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's why you have to have a good team around you. And he's to kind of talk to about that stuff, but he's going to do what he wants to do. He's a grown man. We'll see what happens.
We got Give and Go with Maybach O coming up. We're going to talk more on the Kings. We're going to talk NCAA tournament and a couple of heavier things we got to talk about as well, if you're good with that. I want to mention this tweet from Shams because all is right with the world. The Kobe Bryant estate and Nike have reached a deal to continue a partnership. Vanessa Bryant announced today Nike is donating 100% of net proceeds to Gianna Bryant's shoes to Mamba and Mambacita Sports Foundation, and sides will establish a youth basketball center in Southern California. That had to get done, and I'm very happy that it did. Those two need to be partners, and they need to be partners for a very long time. So that's good news for for sneakerheads and Kobe Bryant fans for sure. We'll come back more with Olivia Christian as D'Lo and Casey continue on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Did you read up on the Rashawn stuff? Did you follow that?
Yeah.
So I think we put Rashawn in a box though. So I'm going to bring up Rashawn, and then we'll get into the Deshaun stuff that you noted here, and then we'll just go to give it. We'll get into give and go right after that.
Okay.
And I'll follow your lead there.
I feel like every week I'm talking about something pretty heavy.
That's all right.
That's where my mind is all the time.
You're not here to be. We've been cracking jokes for 3 hours. Like, hey, we need your vibe, your spin. Like, that's the whole point.
Beginning
Supreme Court nominee hearings for the last 3 days because I'm a nerd and I like that stuff.
Yeah, that'll put you in a bad mood though.
Yeah, but it's kind of like Teams Twitter. If you find, I use Twitter for sports and politics. If you have a community, you can find people to have your outlet with. And like you get information like, oh, I'm not crazy. We're all screaming and wanting to throw our phones because this guy's a jacket. Okay, good. It's the same thing. So, but I had to do some extra reps in the gym to get some of that anger out from what I did. Super depressing.
So beginning April 1st, Go to One Center will no longer require people attending their games and events to provide a proof of a negative COVID test or vaccination status in compliance with updated health and safety guidelines from the state.
That was a swift subject change, but I like it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if we're there.
I guess it's over.
Yeah, that's literally everything back to normal.
Vaccines and treatments we're in a different place. I think people are responding and they're like, at this point, if you want to, put on a mask or something and you're vaccinated and boosted and all that stuff, and you want to go out, that's what you're up against.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know what I was going to reference earlier when we were talking about the fair? We just keep it on the stream and leave it off the radio. Remember Black Family Night at the fair?
Oh, hell yeah.
And how it almost always ended bad.
Oh, hell yeah.
Every year. It's like, all right, you're going knowing something's going to happen, but you're going anyways.
The last time they had a designated Black Family Night, I don't think I went to the fair. I think I was just at Cal Expo. And even I was like, yeah, they've got to do something different. This is not they completely lost control. The people who came there for all the wrong reasons, right? Like they were out of control.
Yeah. Are you do you like amusement parks or fairs or?
Yes, I love it. Yeah.
Are you a Disneyland? I mean, I know you're not close to it, but are you a Disneyland regular? Do you go to Universal Studios?
I went once as a kid, never back. But my brother who lives in Minnesota, his wife works for the Mall of America. And in the Mall of America, they have a full-on amusement park, giant roller coasters. And they're like a Nickelodeon area for little kids where my niece goes. But then there are other giant ones that I make my brother go on and he screams his brains out. And I'm just like, yeah, I love it.
Oh.
Great America, Santa Cruz Boardwalk.
No, too high for me.
Too high?
I don't like heights.
I didn't know Mall of America had an amusement park in it. The only thing I've ever been to in Minnesota is the airport, and it's a fantastic airport.
It's good, yeah.
It's a really good airport, but I've never been to anything outside
I went to the mall. I went to the mall one time. I went to my one time in Minneapolis. I went to an Outkast concert. That's where I went to the Outkast concert.
Oh, wow. That's random. Is that the only place you could get tickets? How'd that happen?
Like I went there for, I think it was a wedding, and my cousin, I just got in there like an hour or two before, and I was 19, 20 years old. And he was like, hey, we got extra tickets for this Outkast concert tonight. You want to go? I was, at the time, I was like, yo, Outkast is cool, but I wasn't like a huge Outkast fan. I was like, yeah, I ain't doing nothing else. Let's go. And then I went to the concert, and that like turned me into, yo, these guys are amazing. And I just went all in. But
we're coming back, Casey. Sorry. My apologies to those on the stream. I had to cut Kenny off. It turns out Front Row Kenny has been around for a lot longer than any of us have been aware of. But I had to.
Shout out to Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? It took me. The other part of that story was I was like 20 years old afterwards. And it was, imagine if like there was a concert at the Golden One Center and, oh, we're trying to do something afterwards. We're trying to get in the Tiger or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm trying to roll. And they're like, well, this kid, he's 20. So we actually, Alvarez looks like, who does he doesn't look like me. I'll put it to you like that. I can't even think of a comp, but he doesn't look like me. Right. And we came up with the idea of trying to pass the ID back. He gets in with his ID, pass it backwards to me, and let me try to use his ID and get in. It's as if like he doesn't look like this guy, but it's as if Farouk was like, here, use my ID. It was just completely off, and it didn't work at all. And we almost got his ID taken, but we got it back.
Okay.
I remember RL was hanging out down there. I guess he's from Minnesota. RL from Next. He was hanging out. Really short.
Yeah, Kenny at an Outkast concert in Minnesota it wasn't on my D-Lo and KC bingo card today. So that's solid. Still, I got a bingo if Kenny references something he did as a 7-year-old, but other than that, man, and the prize money's going to Jesse here today. Olivia Christian, 1320 host and contributor with us here for the final hour of the show. We're going to get back into the Kings. In fact, we're going to get into Give and Go with Maybach O here in just a minute. I'm going to reach over here and open up the box for a second because I'm curious to get your perspective, Olivia, on the Richaun Holmes thing, the Richaun Holmes article that came out from the Sacramento Bee yesterday, and I'm just a different perspective. I'm curious what you thought of that.
Well, the article itself, I thought was kind of all over the place. And there were a lot of questions that are in the process of being answered and asked at this point. We don't have a lot of information. But from that article, we learned that the team apparently knew that things were going on with Richaun and his ex-wife and his child. And that is why he's stepping away from the team for the last part of the season. And then we learned again from that article about what was involved with that. And, you know, with that happening, it started making me think about what players and teams are obligated to do, you know, in terms of putting that business out there, right? Richaun wasn't arrested for anything. And this is a business, right? The Kings are a team. We have expectations of them to perform on the team. They have an organization. It's not necessarily their duty, in my mind, to do an investigation. They are not police. They're not detectives. They may have some things in terms of HR, some rules around how conduct should happen and, you know, what's involved with employees. But it started just making me think about the role of an organization. What do we expect out of professional leagues versus what we expect out of everyday corporations, and what their standards are for their employees. And it led me to, I was on Twitter a couple of days ago, I think it was earlier in the week, and Michelle Beadle, she used to be on ESPN. She was the host of Get Up and then the NBA show, and she's been gone for a few years, but she's got a podcast, and she put out a snippet from the podcast talking about Deshaun Watson. I'm like, we went from Richaun Holmes to Deshaun Watson. This conversation obviously has been going on for a while, and his deal with the Browns for $230 million guaranteed. And there's a lot of conversation, especially from women who are working in sports right now, about whether or not the NFL likes women. Do they care about these women who have these allegations against players, and why are they continuing to sign players, and why aren't they doing the investigations? And so for a while, I've been thinking about all this stuff, but it kind of came to, as I said earlier, kind of came to a T when I was thinking about what is the role of this employer, NFL, these individual teams, and why do we have such big expectations for them to act any differently than any other employer or employees? Now, my boyfriend is a firefighter, and years ago, there was something in the news about what was going on with his department, and I think the firefighters were in trouble for like marijuana use. They're all drug tested. And I remember asking him, like, oh, is there a lot of drug use and stuff in the stations? Like, what do you guys talk about? And he's like, firefighters are like normal people. Whatever percentage of the population is doing drugs or alcohol or any other crime, it's happening in the fire department. They're not, angels just because they put out fires and they help rescue you from accidents and this and that. We don't always know that they're involved in these things that aren't great, but I don't put them on this pedestal that they're better than. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. Why would they be any different than the general public? And I feel that, like, for whatever reason, professional athletes who are typically very young, right? They're like early 20s, early 30s. We have a lot of expectations for them, how they conduct themselves. In addition to being the best that they are in the game, we also ask them to be philanthropists. Why aren't you going back to your community and starting to get camp and feeding the homeless? Like, all right, let me go do that. And why aren't you raising a family and being an activist? And, we put a lot of expectations on these young players, but then we also ask them to change, the organization that they work with and the chemistry of their teams and the players that make up them. And I just feel like it's a lot, especially when, as individuals in a collective society, we do not do that for other employers. We make exceptions when it's convenient for us. We know that a lot of the corporations that we spend money on buying shirts and shoes and food and getting, on our apps to have something delivered to us, they're not all great companies, right? They're making hand over fist. They're not treating their employees the best. A lot of them aren't making a living wage, don't get healthcare, but we kind of let that go a lot of times because it's convenient for us. But for whatever reason, we have these high expectations, in my estimation, with these players to be amazing human beings above and beyond. But in fact, they're just like the firefighters I was describing. There's going to be a portion of them that aren't great. And it's usually a very small portion, very small percentage of these players that aren't doing great things. But I don't know why we put such heavy expectation on them to be these exemplary human beings, especially at a young age when you're trying to find yourself. Right. And have that small window of opportunity to make money, feed your family, feed the huge team that is supported by you, your lawyers, your doctors, all of those folks. You have a lot on your shoulders already. I'm not saying that we shouldn't expect them to do well by the people around them. I'm not saying you get off with, we're okay with you beating up your girlfriend or your wife. Of course, I'm not an idiot. I wouldn't say that. But I'm just saying I do think we put a lot of pressure on people, on professional athletes, to be above and beyond when we don't do that for other people and other employers. And that is my soliloquy.
Or other companies that we support, which I thought was a great. There's a whole series that actually every time the trailer hits, it plays right before I watch an episode of Billions. It's about the creator of Uber. And it like you start looking at these things and you hear all of these stories about Amazon, and it's like, you're boycotting your 2-hour delivery. Like you're that upset with the working conditions at Amazon that you canceled your Amazon Prime subscription so you can get that new toilet wand that you needed delivered tomorrow within the next 24 hours. Like it's yeah, I think that's such a great point. And I wonder, and I'm not stating this, like I'm legitimately asking this, and there are a variety of athletes that get in trouble. I feel like, man, I think in some cases that there is a racial component to it, but I also think there's a financial component. I think fans are so invested in athletes that many of them look at it when one of them, like an athlete, does something wrong. It's people look at it almost like, after all I did for you,
I know.
Like after buying your jersey, after doing and I know a lot of this is because of the Colin Kaepernick stuff is ringing in my head, and they're not necessarily the same thing. But that was after all of the support I've given you, you do that. After the jerseys and the games and the popcorn and the parking and all after all I've invested in you. It's like he's a kid who dropped out of college and you lost your tuition money. There's almost in fantasy sports plays an aspect in this. There's an ownership, I think, that fans have of professional athletes, which weighs into some of the questions that you just asked, Olivia.
Yeah, I completely agree. I definitely think there's this idea that we are allowing you as fans, we are allowing you to make money off of this game. So now we own you on and off the floor, off the court, off the field, wherever you are. And when you disappoint us, we can burn your jersey in the backyard. Like, well, whatever, that's your jersey. You already paid for it. So if that's how you want to demonstrate your anger, fine. But I do think there's a racial component sometimes with this. There's a bit of, some of it has to do with Kaepernick, and that was an example of when it kind of really kind of blew up. But it's been like this throughout the history of sports in America. It's like, as soon as an athlete kind of speaks their mind, I'm against the war, or I'm a civil rights, I'm going to be an activist, I'm going to speak about discrimination. It's like, shut up and just play.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an element of it. But, and, in terms of the NFL, like, one of the things that stuck out to me in the Michelle Beadle video was she was saying, I don't understand why the players don't stand up and say, I'm not going to take this. We don't want those kind of people in our league. And then again, it made me think about, like, well, for one, as a collective, we don't do that to each other. We don't do that to employees. I don't know why we have this expectation that NFL players will do that. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I don't know why we add that pressure onto them to say we don't want to play with these folks. But it's also then, like, they should be, I don't understand why we think the NFL would be good at doing an investigation, especially if people haven't been charged with something. Why do we say that we need to do something if they are just under accusation on top of that? I haven't come to a conclusion about all this stuff, but this is just what I'm thinking about. I don't know if employers are allowed to fire you if you've been accused of something.
Right.
Isn't that illegal? Don't we have to wait for the process to run its course?
Right.
Are they allowed to keep paying you every 2 weeks while you're still, I know there's morality clauses and things like that, but I don't think you just get fired, or you can't be promoted because you've been accused of something. So, I mean, again, those are all the questions that are running through my mind, but I just overall, I hate the level of expectation we put on young athletes. And I think it's a lot with the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They get the most of it. And there's because it's like America's game, it feels like there are a lot of racial undertones about ownership and performance and ideas around what makes you eligible to act in the way, like, we give you that right. Mm-hmm. You're in this country, we gave you this right. You get to make money from this. You should be proud, shut up and play. Yeah. We're all over that. You
get to play a game. Right. You get to play a game.
Yeah. And both of you guys hit it on the head, and I'll touch on it again. I think there absolutely is a racial component to all of this. And not to say when somebody gets in trouble, like you mentioned, domestic abuse or, sexual assault or anything, nobody is condoning those things at all. You know what I mean? And even for something as strong as that, I'm not saying that this applies, but when somebody is, I don't know, out, they get caught in public intoxication or something like that, right? Like something simple like that. I feel like a lot of people look down on that athlete, for stuff like that. Like, how could you got to be smarter than that. You're in the public eye. Well, they're still 25 years old with the world at their hands and more money than they've ever seen in their life. And maybe they haven't adjusted to how their new life is. And even without adjusting to their new life, if they were in their regular life, or if me and you at 25 years old had a $25 million contract, like, we may not make the same decisions that we think we would, right?
We don't even need to have the 25 million, just us at 25. Do you remember
Absolutely.
who you were?
Absolutely.
I've never been that wild, but I'm much calmer now.
Right.
Like, to judge people in that way. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but I mean,
no, you're fine. You're 100% correct. Like, at 25, when I had $25 in my bank account, I was acting wild at the club, right? Like, just imagine with money not being an option. And I don't think there's, we're not saying like, oh, it's okay, do whatever you want. But I just feel like there's a lot of aspects of people looking down on these guys for some of the decisions they make that, it just, sometimes you got to put yourself in their shoes a little bit.
And I think some of it goes back to what Davion said. It is about the aspirations or the expectations we put on players. Mm-hmm. And then when they don't live up to our expectations, we're mad, we're sad. And I think it's okay to kind of go through that. And whenever I hear about a player and you see a video and they've committed domestic violence, or the way it turns my stomach, I get nauseous at it. I'm angry about it. And I know there's a criminal justice system that will handle that. And sometimes they don't do the best by it. I'm a Black woman. I know this. They don't always handle it well. But I also don't know that we're doing the best by each other when we put these expectations, thinking that they're going to be extra human people. Mm-hmm. Again, it's not just about being the best player in the world. You also have to start your foundation. You also have to, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things we layer onto them because they make a lot of money. And then when they let us down, it's heartbreaking, and we come after them and come after even just their teammates for aren't you mad? You should say something to them. Like, well, I'm just in the locker room. Now I'm responsible for this man when I'm not around him. Oh,
right.
And layer and layer.
And to that point, we talked about it earlier as well. Not trying to, bash somebody who was just doing their job, but I thought it was completely unfair and out of bounds to, in that piece about Richaun Holmes, paint the Kings as if they were hiding it purposely and trying to protect Richaun, like endorsing it. And then also, some of the fans that when they heard he was going to be out for the season, just, say, hey, I hope everything is all right. It felt like it was painted as if the fans, were feeling that way. And I thought a lot of the way that was presented yesterday was unfair, and it didn't have to go down that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that article was kind of a mess. We started the conversation was about Richaun and what was going on, and all of a sudden these statistics about other NBA. So it's kind of like lumping them into that category of people who've been convicted of things. And, Richaun hasn't been charged with anything. It's from my knowledge. I don't think he has at this point.
Yes, not.
For, with the family, we want everyone to feel safe, to be safe, and to be heard in a court of law, and for a correct ruling. There's a young child involved. Of course, we're all on board for that. But I don't think the Kings were wrong for not saying anything. I
didn't think that was their place when it hadn't been out. That wasn't their place to, in my opinion, to come out here and be like, Richaun is going to be out for the rest of the season because he's dealing with legal matters. It's not their place. It's not,
especially when the legal matters aren't public. Like, there's so much to that. I do love the idea of we've got to make smarter decisions. Like, I've been in a conversation. These guys, they've just got to be smarter. Like, Brody, don't you have a DUI? Like, you really telling these dudes to be smarter? Like, well, tell me about the decisions you've made in life, bro. But let's keep it moving here. Just hang on real quick. I'm gonna grab the box.
Yeah, we gotta make sure it goes back in there.
Put our man Richaun back in the box until the situation gets a little clarity added to it. So we'll continue. We could. I don't know if you got some more thoughts on the Kings, but give and go with Made Back Go is always one of my favorite times of the week. So what you want to dive into here is as we get moving.
I enjoyed the game last night. And again, I'm saying the name of my show.
Yes, you do. I love it. It gets worked into every show, and then you go, I'm not doing that on purpose. There is a show called The Game Last Night. It's fantastic.
Yeah. If they play on Wednesday, I'm like, yes, I get to say the game last night. That was a great game. I stayed off Twitter mostly because I didn't want to get too emotionally involved.
Smart move. Yep.
Even though I know, like you said, these games are kind of pointless at this point, but not totally pointless, right? They're all getting time, learning each other's game and getting some minutes in and trying to get a contract from somebody. If it's not the Kings, they still got to play and show up so they can play next year. But what I loved last night was something that we already talked about with Davion Mitchell. I like that he seems unafraid to take some of those big shots. I already called out one in the fourth quarter. It was like 20 seconds on the clock, and he had that fade away, and that we were down one when he made it. And I think he would have shied away from something like that earlier in the season, especially if De'Aaron was on the court. If De'Aaron was on the court, we would have expected him to take it. But Davion, I feel like he has stepped into that role. And
can we touch on that specific shot for a second? Because that was sort of a ballsy shot. Like in that situation, I
didn't like the shot.
No, exactly. That's exactly. It wasn't a three. He wasn't at the basket. He was almost in no man's land. and he took it and hit it, and ultimately it helped. Along with Shavano, helped the Kings win. I meant to make note of that, and I don't know that we've discussed that today. So you hated the shot, Casey?
I didn't like it. I didn't. When he took the shot, I was like, whoa, why? No, why? I wanted him to get to the bucket.
Yeah,
work it to get a different shot. So I didn't like the shot at the time, but he knocked it down.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those you got to make if you're going to take it.
The second half, that's when the refs stopped calling fouls at the basket. Beginning of the game, it was like, oh wow, they're getting to the line. That's great. But all of a sudden, Harrison started getting hacked in the face, and they weren't getting some calls. So I'm like,
they got reminded, hey guys, it's the Kings. You don't have to blow the whistle against them. It's cool.
Choke on that. So I wasn't that excited that he took that shot, but I understood why he didn't go to the basket, because I don't think he would have gotten the call if he got fouled anyway. Luckily, it went down. But overall, my give for him is that keep giving him those minutes, what you think he's going to get, but keep growing in your confidence and thinking that you can be that guy in that moment. That's only a good thing, to have more people on the court who feel like they can make the shot and not be scared of it. Because that's when they start passing, like, I don't know. And then when the shot clock runs out. So give me more of that, Davion.
Yeah.
But
even if Kenny hates the shot, keep doing it.
I love the confidence. Hate the shot, but I love the confidence. I'll say that.
Yep.
But what could go is what showed up last night. The third quarter scaries. They came back. What did we go to halftime with a 10-point lead, something like that? And they came back and they were asleep. They didn't get that Capri Sun or orange slices or whatever they need to be able to come back to the second half of the game and show up. So I don't know. I think that's just a thing we're going to have to live with. It doesn't seem like when they don't do it, it's like, oh, a surprise. And I think I just have to expect the third quarter to be scary, and that emotionally I can prepare myself.
The sooner we accept it, the better off we'll all probably be.
Yeah.
Just know it's going to happen, and once you mentally prepare yourself for that, we'll all be in a better place.
Maybe just skip the third quarter. That would probably be.
So I've suggested skipping halftime, like, because something happens in that 15-minute window.
Make them stay out there and just shoot around. Don't even take time off.
Just keep going.
Each other.
That would be
going.
Somebody has to tell us. I need a somebody shoot what is going on from the walk off the court to the walk back on the court.
Play a pickup game at half. Just like split the court. Just play around. Red Panda or whoever else is out there. Just play around them. Get a game.
Julio.
Play around hearing Fantastic Voyage for the 27th time. That's fine. Or Rapper's Delight, whichever one is on the rotation for that particular night.
If the opposing team went into the locker room and the Kings just played a pickup game, that would be the commentators would be like, I think the Kings are still out there.
The Kings have taken a new approach to their third quarter woes. They got a mini Hoop It Up tournament going on here at the half. So
Hoop It Up.
That was a classic.
Did you ever play in Hoop It Up?
No, I was too scared. My dad and my brother did, and I would go, but I was always too nervous to play with like.
You go to what, the one in San Jose?
Yeah.
I heard that one was popping.
It was. Cherry Street. Cherry Street was the playground where everybody played.
Did you ever notice that your brother-in-law keeps his Hoop It Up, his 1996 Hoop It Up trophy on full display, the little plaque on full display for everybody who comes to his parents' house?
I was going to say, where is it? Because I don't know if my sister has that out. Oh, it's at his parents' house? Yeah,
I don't think Shonda would allow that on the mantle at the house. But if you go over to the parents' house and look above the fireplace, you will see the 1996 Hoop It Up trophy right there, or I call it it's a plaque. It's a Hoop It Up plaque for their first place finish.
Come on, man, come on. I'm not mad at that at all. Got to keep those. I still got mine. I got two. Well, actually, I finally just got rid of them, but I took pictures of them.
I don't actually believe you got rid of them. I believe Jazz got rid of them, and she told you. I got rid of them, and you're framing it.
I got rid of them, because the
pictures you have is of Jazz taking it to the trash. Like, say goodbye to these damn plaques.
What happened was there a lot of plaques and trophies and all this other stuff, and
the trophy room at the Caraway House is still being built, by the way. So.
Yeah, I'm not keeping all those, man. I don't need the Miraloma tournament MVP plaque that I got for JV year. Like, now let's move on. And I have like 3 Hoop It Up championships that I decided to move on from. But I took pictures of all my little stuff though.
That's
They're
awesome.
going to turn into NFTs.
I have a lot of like all league tennis stuff and basketball team plaques. I don't have any individual basketball accolades, but I had some in tennis. I did hang on to those for quite a while, but once my parents moved out of our childhood home, it was like, pick 2 things.
Oh man.
So
that's fine. I don't have any individual accolades at all. Any other give and goes from the Kings game you want to touch on, or we want to hit something else?
Well, my gives were, I like what Trey Lyles and Davion Jones are doing. I think they're going in confidence. I like how they're both attacking the basket. I like that Davion is hanging around the rim, so he could be available for those tip-ins. I like the energy that he brings. And my go for that was just going to be the fact that Harrison Barnes was not getting calls. It hurt. And the fact that he's so nice about it is why I think it will continue. If he were angry and started cussing people out, they'd be like, oh, they would stop. But I think he's just like, why? But, and then he just goes down the court. That was a bad imitation, I'm sure. Sound quite
Shout out to the camera crew that caught Harrison Barnes looking at an official with such tremendous disappointment last night. He wasn't yelling at him. He wasn't angry. It's just like the ball came. They were going to a timeout, and Harrison just looked at him like, so you missed that one, huh?
That's the look. My
Harrison does that a lot. I kind of like it too. Like, I mean, what you want me to do here? You want me to blow up? You really made that call? How do you want me to approach this right now?
Yeah, I want him to get the calls, but I don't think he's going to because, like I said, he's too nice. He looks at the refs like my dad would look at me as a child when I would make a mistake. Olivia, my dad is not a yeller.
That's exactly what he did. Yes.
I'm disappointed. You could have done. Like, yes, you're right.
And that's what I feel like the official did to Harrison. You're right.
Yes, I missed it.
I'm sorry, Harrison. By the way, a peek behind the curtain. Kenny is, in fact, sending us pictures of his Hoop It Up trophies. Just those are
it's real, man. It's real.
Those are in the group thread right now.
Real
the Hoop It Up trophy. He did in fact win the World Tour Hoop It Up 1992 division champion.
Well, my last give and goes are for the NCAA tournaments. I'm very excited.
Oh, let's go.
Yes, I'm enjoying these. What can give? I want to see. Obviously, the games come back, but what can go for me is Duke. And
wow,
that's what he does, Coach K, in his final time. Wow,
I can't.
Cold world.
The conversation around Coach K. He picked a haircut from when he was 6, and he stuck with it, and we just keep seeing it over and over again. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the Duke conversation. It has got to go down. That is my go.
So that's so funny because those are the only 2 ends of the Duke conversation. There's no like, oh yeah, no, whatever. It's like, nah, this Duke thing, this is a good story. Let's see how it plays out. Or it's what Olivia just said. There is no in the middle with Duke. And I guess that's a credit to Coach K. And I think this is something, Casey, you were talking about when you got emotional and sentimental during Coach K's final game at UNC, against UNC, which didn't go well. But he built a program which you either love or you hate. No in between. It's like I don't think there's an in between with the New York Yankees. You love them or you hate them. Like he created a college basketball equivalent of that. Of course, Olivia loves them. Many other people hate them.
Do people hate the Yankees that much? I know people really hate them.
Yeah. They're
and the Patriots. I would put them in that category. You hate the Patriots passionately.
So do you still?
I don't know.
Was that a Patriot Brady package that caused that?
I think so.
Because I would put the Cowboys.
I don't think it's the same.
I think you're right.
I'd
put the Cowboys above the Patriots. Like in terms of hated NFL teams, like it's one or the other. I would put the Cowboys above the Patriots.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. I think
Cowboys, Yankees, Duke. and
Lakers.
I guess the Lakers.
Yeah, Lakers are in there.
Really?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, you either hate the Lakers or you love them.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait just a damn minute.
You hate them or you okay. You either hate them or you okay Lake show them, one or the other.
Well, I
once said, "Oh, son of a gun."
I brought up Bomani Jones last week. I haven't watched his latest episode, but the premiere episode also included a conversation about Duke, and the way he handled it was great. They set up like this fake museum in New York with all these historic pieces of paraphernalia, memorabilia. That's the right word. Like Duke stuff from the memories, but they kind of told the conversation around, or they kind of broke down why people are so polarized by Coach K and Duke, and like there's some racial undertones there, as is life. But it's a great segment. I encourage you to go there. And I was like, yes, this is why I hate Duke exactly. And I want them out of the tournament, just out of the tournament.
You know what's funny about that, real quick, Dame, is I remember watching Leitner's 30 for 30 or whatever the case may be. And people hated Duke for a perception that wasn't necessarily real, right? Because Leitner was like, they thought I was like this privileged guy. Like I stayed in like a apartment and I wasn't poor, but by no means was I rich. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I got a basketball scholarship to go to Duke, but everybody looked as, oh, this preppy who's super privileged or whatever. And that was the perception of going to Duke. And that's what kind of, I think, sparked a lot of the hate.
It was Leitner and Grant Hill, because Grant Hill actually was the well-off kid. And people,
exactly.
Leitner was like blue collar, but it was the perception. But also, Duke had this history of picking a lot of players that didn't look like players that were playing at 5.
No.
And Michigan knew that.
Right.
Yes. And they hated hated that they weren't recruited by them, or we didn't fit the mold. You want to be to us. And so
and to another layer with that, Coach K was kind of he would look down his nose at those type of players. Like, I don't recruit one and dones here.
Until he had no choice.
Yeah.
And then he won a national championship doing it.
One and done king next to Coach Cal.
It just dawned on me. Would a perfect end to that 30 for 30 be Duke versus Michigan in Coach K's final year versus Juwan Howard? Like, are you
I want that.
That's it. You talk about you might have to put the national championship off a week just to hype that up. Like, that's
check. Would they be? I think that would be a national championship game the way the brackets are set up. I think it would be. Yeah.
Picture that.
I want that.
Coach K versus Juwan Howard, one of the original members of the Fab Five who slandered his program. Oh man, that is good stuff right there. Could you even have Grant Hill on the call of that game? It'd just be like, sorry, Grant, you can't do this one, pal. You're gonna have to sit in the.
You have to sit this one out, buddy.
We're gonna go get Kirk Herbstreit like everybody else did.
He and Bobby Hurley could just sit down.
Herbstreit doing the national championship.
Kirk Herbstreit, he does it all here on television. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in the women's tournament?
Yes, I want South Carolina and Stanford to go all the way. So I'm excited about my two teams. I want that matchup. I love Don Staley, but I also love Stanford. They were a team that I loved growing up and playing ball out in the Bay Area. So I'd like to see that head to head.
It's crazy. It's crazy, Damian. I almost feel like rooting like I do when I root for Coach K or something like that. I shouldn't feel this way, but Damian knows, maybe my favorite player in college basketball right now is my girl Paige Beckers. And I just want to see more. I want to see more. I know it sounds
go ahead.
And all this. I know.
Go ahead, say it. Say you're gonna root for UConn and look Olivia in the face and say you hate black women. Go ahead, do it. Do it right now.
I can't say that.
Do it right now.
I love Don. I love Don. I wouldn't root for UConn to beat.
Go ahead, root for the Yankees of women's college basketball. Root for Gino Auriemma. Go ahead, do it.
Root for UConn to beat Stanford. That's a good question.
I don't know. Paige Beckers is.
Paige is sick.
Yeah, Paige is legit.
And AZ starting to come around too. AZ out here, it's getting crazy.
Dude, just wait till next year, man. She's I've noticed too, man. Dawn has been really visible lately. Like, I feel like Dawn is everywhere.
She has a show on ESPN Plus, doesn't she?
Yeah, she has all of these new like entities that weren't around as she was like building this program. And I think she got to that national title point, and now she's like everywhere, which is it's good for her. It's good for the game. Obviously, it's great for her program, but like she's really starting to establish herself as the face of women's basketball.
I love my girls in South Carolina. Columbia, stand up. Those are where my people at, or whatever the case may be. So nobody is going above Columbia, maybe Michigan, but aside from Michigan, and their women's team in the Sweet 16, show them some love. You know what I mean? Aside from that, nobody's going above South Carolina. I'm just saying, I want to see Paige play as much as possible.
UConn women's team is Duke for me. Men's team, I hate them.
That's facts.
I can understand that one.
I could do without.
Yeah.
And Gino is really grouchy when he gets a couple of glasses deep. Like he'll bring up Gino. Diana Taurasi is a national treasure. I'll just say that. Diana, she's the only person who I've ever seen. Look, Gino, shut the F up. like literally no one cares. Like, shut up.
He said, okay, Diana.
That's pretty much what happened. Olivia, you are the absolute best. We appreciate you as always.